got junk mail. Should I open it on stream?
Oil can.
How
No,
cool would
don't.
that be?
We're recording now, so just why don't you just
Oh,
start the show?
okay. Okay. No, we don't need a tauntaun in the background. Okay. You guys ready?
What the
Look, I'm
hell
gonna
is
zoom
going
back
on?
in so you stop mugging for the camera, okay?
If this causes the cat to start meowing like crazy, I'm quitting the show.
No, she's fine. Okay. You ready to start the show then? You good?
Yes.
Okay, Ro, you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Welcome to House Round the Roundtable, episode 362. It's Friday night. This week has sucked, but guess what? We're here, we're having fun, and it's way better than the rest of the week. And I don't know, I'm just babbling on because, dang, it's been a long week. But with me, as always, is John Jagger. How's it going, John?
Well, hey Ben. Fine. Better than the people that are now going to be like, "What happened this week? What's going on? Did something
No, just-
happen? I need to Google Wowhead immediately and find out what news they're alluding to."
Oh, it has nothing to do with WoW. That's all.
Hi,
Yeah.
Ben.
Hi, John.
It's it's fine. Sometimes there are weeks that go quick and are easy, and sometimes there are weeks that go slow and are hard. And we've had a week, so here we are. But we're not gonna face it alone.
No.
We've brought a guest to face this and carry the show, honestly, because that's what we need. We're DPS now, Ben, and we need to
Yes,
be
we
we need to
are.
be carried.
Oh my gosh. I would like to start off this episode by thanking Ro for joining us on this episode and definitely carrying it.
Good morning, Azeroth! Or wait, it's evening. Damn it!
Oh my gosh. And this has been Azeroth Roundtable. Thank you everybody for joining us.
I can't match this energy. I can't even deal with it, honestly.
Wow. No, but believe it or not, it's actually absolutely fantastic that Ro is here this week because John, building off of our discussion last week about how I'm a mage again and how I'm DPS and everything, it is very appropriate that Ro is here to confirm the fact that he carried me throughout 2 nights of raiding. And I gotta say, they have been 2 of the best nights of raiding that I've had in a long time, and I'm totally back in and feeling it.
Well, I mean, my back really wasn't hurting that much. In fact, I would say that for being in as few times as DPS as you have been, and considering how well you've been gearing up your character already, you're doing fine. I mean, I know you're going to get to a spot where you feel a lot more happier and comfortable with it. I'm not unhappy with your performance with DPS. You're doing fine. I think you, like myself, are too hard on yourself when it comes to numbers and stuff. I'm looking at these. We had a couple people with us on Wednesday who there's Manny, who's been on the show a few times, and he was on along with a friend of his, and boy, you can just tell what a difference heroic rating gear makes.
If you want to
Holy
know
cow.
what raiding and being really good at DPS is like, run with some heroic geared people in your normal.
If anyone's back
You'll
was
win.
hurting, it was Manny's and his friends.
Yeah, but I mean, I do really actually want to talk about it a little bit because it's one of those weird things of changing roles and jumping into it and stuff that a lot of people don't realize if they only play one sort of spec or one sort of class and everything. Tanking is entirely different than healing, which is entirely different than DPS. And like, I'm not even kidding when I say that they were really relaxing raid nights. I'm going in and yeah, I'm trying to do the best I can with my rotation and, doing damage and everything. But man, there's like so much less responsibility on me. I didn't have to worry about keeping anybody else alive as well as myself. I didn't, make the sacrificial play to make sure that one of the tanks lived which, you know, has been known to happen, which, especially on that Mott fight. Yeah, one of the reasons I don't go in those circles when I'm healing is because, hey, guess what? The tanks really need the heals, so
Yeah.
they got that. But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm just kind of chilling, relaxing, and everything. And for the most part, I was one of the very last people alive every time. So I'm like, great, I got mechanics down, and I'm just kind of like, you know, laughing and chatting and enjoying raid. And it was a huge change from how I've been feeling the last year or so.
Yeah, I mean, whack-a-mole isn't always the most enjoyable thing in the world. I've had a stint playing a healer, even in FERT, when I was playing a Resto Shaman for a while. And yeah, it's different. It can be fun at the start, but it's also kind of stressful because when the raid wipes, you have this feeling that, like, man, is it just because I missed that one heal at that 1 second? And then it causes a snowball effect and you get a little hard on yourself. And then, of course, there's a tendency to think, then there's the frustration and stress of, well, if people wouldn't stand in the fire or the poop so much, then I'd be able to keep everyone up. I have a deep, profound respect for healers that play the spec and actually enjoy it, because it is in my opinion, often a very thankless and stressful position to play in raiding.
Yeah. And this is even without like any corrupted pieces of gear. And at the time, I didn't have a good weapon, and I was missing, you know, 2 decent trinkets and stuff. So, John, I just wanted to report to you that, hey, I'm having fun.
Good. That's what turns out. That's probably what rating should be.
Yeah. Surprisingly,
So
actually.
I kind of have a strange tangent to go off on here, and I'm kind of glad that you brought up your enjoyment with raiding, because I've had a change in enjoyment with something in the game too recently, which I did not see coming.
Okay.
I'm enjoying Mythic Plus.
Ooh.
And you may recall, I have often on this show said that Dungeons and Legion and Dungeons and BFA just have not interested me. I've had no real incentive or motivation to do them. I figured out what the difference was, and I mean, when I say what it is, people are going to be like, well, duh, and I get this, but I'm going to say it anyhow. Doing a Mythic Plus with 4 people that you know and you trust is light years different in terms of the experience than doing it with 4 freaking random players. And I
Well,
think,
duh.
yeah, right. There you go. Thanks, John. I knew I could count on you. But so I think one of the issues with Mythic Plus, why I realize this is why I haven't gone into Mythic Plus and really done it for gear before, is because in order to get to the point in Mythic Plus where you're getting like normal or even heroic raid level gear, you have to do regular mythics and like Mythic 1, Mythic 2. And at this point in the game, people who are doing Mythic Plus already have their keys at kind of like medium or higher levels. So what was keeping me from getting into the system and doing it was that entry point, realizing that, well, if I'm going to get a Mythic 5 or 6 or 7 key, I'm going to have to do some of the lowers first and do them well. All it really took in the end was someone in my guild, in my raid team, saying, hey, I have a key for a Mythic Plus 7. Do you want to go? And I'm like, I haven't done a Mythic all expansion, but sure. And I decided, you know, what the heck, I'll do it. And it was fine. In fact, it was enjoyable, and I was all stressed and anxious about it for nothing. And in the end, I got a freaking one of the best pieces of gear that I've gotten all expansion with, you know, infinite stars corruption, and then my DPS jumped up 6,000 points. So yeah, Mythics with friends is great. Mythics without friends sucks. That's the moral of the story.
Interesting. Very interesting.
As everybody ponders that, whether it's better to do something with a friend or with a stranger, send your list of which you think is better with a friend or better with a stranger to azerothroundtable@gmail.com.
No, don't send it.
Is there anything? Wait, okay. Here's a serious question. Is there anything in Warcraft that is better doing it without guildmates or raid team members or friends, whatever like that? Is there anything that's you're better off doing with complete unknowns?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that?
Transmog runs.
Okay.
Well, it's on RP servers, certain RP servers, Alliance side, certain ins, but we won't talk anymore.
Well, no,
about
that entirely depends on the friends. you know, solo isn't always the way to go in that.
I don't know. I was just trying to make what Ro was saying dirty, and then you went with like a legitimate thing, and then I was like, I don't know. Now I gotta go with this.
I feel I need a shower now. Thanks, Ben.
What? I didn't do anything.
Ben got blamed.
It wasn't even me.
Nice.
I like looting clothes by myself. Wait, that sounds weird now. Thanks a lot. You just twisted everything.
You like looting clothes by yourself? I like removing clothes with others. Hey, here's what I think, Ro. I agree with you. I was very much into Mythic Plus for about a month of this game, which is not long, ultimately. I've ran a fair amount of dungeons on Mythic Plus this expansion. It was very interesting and very fun, and definitely made me rethink, because in Legion I didn't do it. It was one of those things where I looked at it and went, it's not for me. And then I definitely did it on this expansion, and I had a great time. And it was the same thing. I was running it with guildies. We were on voice comms. We were having fun. We weren't putting a lot of pressure on ourselves to have to get through things. It was more of just can we get through it? And it was a very good time. So I'm in full agreement. I think it depends on how you approach the content and who you approach the content with. And I mean, jokes aside, you're not wrong. Like, LFR is not an optimal form of raiding. It is if you don't want to schedule the time and you just want to get through it and you want to, but you're sacrificing that fun experience. You know, there's never going to be a time where I recount the blast and a half I had socially in an LFR. But likewise, there's going to be plenty of times where I go, oh man, it was so nice. I finished the raid. It took me about an hour. I saw what I needed to see, and I got out of there, and there was no banging my head against the freaking wall, and it was beautiful, and it was lovely, and I just got done what I wanted to get done and got out of there. So I kind of feel like that's the trade-off.
So I feel like one thing, and this is going to sound weird when people hear me say this, because, you know, I'm part of one of the largest guilds in World of Warcraft right now. And, you know, people know me from podcasting and stuff like that. But honestly, I'd say a great majority of the time when I play World of Warcraft, or at least the way I've been playing it the last few years, I've tended to, more often than not, outside of the raid nights, been a very solo-oriented player. And it was doing these mythics the last couple of weeks that kind of made me realize, just in some ways, how much I've kind of damaged my appreciation of the game and my experience of the game. Because doing things solo means that I can kind of do things a bit more on my own terms. Things, you know, I go where I want, do what I want. But there are drawbacks and there are cons to that too. Whereas if, you know, you do things with friends, if you do things with people then you know, and you even do things with people you may not know, but through the course of that, hopefully form some strong friendships and partnerships and stuff like that, then WoW becomes a lot more enjoyable. It's something that I didn't even realize I had lost touch with until I had these good experiences in Mythic Plus that showed me, hey, WoW is great when you're doing stuff with friends. Why have I not been doing this more often? And I mean, with the raid team and stuff like that, I've been doing it some of the time, but these systems and stuff that I had no appreciation for it's just because I was doing it wrong, at least for me.
Well, let's dive into that. Why haven't you been doing it more? Because I think this is one of the most important questions with World of Warcraft, because it is an online game. It is a game where even me, who likes to solo everything and is like, if I can't solo it, I'm not interested. Like, even I will sit there and admit, like, oh yeah, I'd rather be doing this with friends, but I don't. More often than not, I solo. I do what you're saying, and so it kind of becomes this weird circle. In my opinion, I'll go ahead and give my quick spiel on it because I've said it before, so we'll just cover it quick. There's too many barriers to entry. If I want to do something with my friend in WoW, who isn't playing WoW at the moment, there are a ton of hurdles for me to do that. If I want to play, just to pick a game at random, Heroes of the Storm with a friend, there are almost zero. We just play the game. Yeah. Now, you can get into some specific, like, well, what if they want to play this? And sure. But generally speaking, pretty much no hurdles. And there will be some people that say, okay, well, there's technically no hurdles for WoW either. You could both just roll a new tune and start playing. But, like, let's look at current content. First, you have to buy the game. It's not a free-to-play game. You don't just get it. You probably have to buy the expansion that's current. Sometimes that includes everything. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if they've gotten to the point where that's no longer the case. But
if it's not the current expansion, it includes everything.
Okay. So you have to sub. You have to make a character. Character has to be max level. Now, they do offer things like boosts, but for a lot of people, if I go to a new friend and I say, hey, get in here with me, and they've never played before, am I really going to recommend boosting your character? Probably not. I'm going to probably say go through the experience. And then we have to make sure that whatever we're doing aligns properly. If we've both decided to go the route of healer, that's going to change the dynamic of what we ultimately decide to play, and what content is available easily to us. Even if we wanted to do Mythic Plus, the thing you talked about being excited about, right now, like you said, you were able to get into this because you knew somebody who had a key that was relevant.
Exactly.
That was a very lucky situation. If we decided, hey, that does sound fun, let's get into it, we would be starting from scratch. And we would have to build that up, and there'd be a lot of time of just like, okay, well, it's going to be what it's going to be until it's good and it's what we need it to be. I think there are too many barriers to entry in this game. Some of these are being addressed in the new expansion, it sounds like. Lowering the level cap is huge. It's far easier to tell somebody get to level 60 than it is get to level 130 or wherever they might have taken it. And so some of it's going to be sorted out, but it's just a hard game to hook up with people. So a way to do that and get around that is to keep people engaged and say, well, sure, this is the situation if we're bringing in new people, but if we have people all in and playing and having a good time, then you don't have that barrier because everybody's playing together and they're going to be max level and they're going to be looking for things to do, so we'll just keep doing that. But in order to keep people engaged from week to week, you kind of have to put in a good smattering of content that's not just group, but also solo. And now you're starting to train people to go, I'll just do it by myself. It's a lot easier than trying to schedule around other people. And now you've got this cycle going back around again. So that's my theory. I'm curious what you all think.
Ben, do you want to go first?
Sure, I would love to, actually. Now, keep in mind that a lot of this is being colored by my recent experience of, trying to gear up and level a different character and everything as well. And I took what you asked. I kind of thought about it for a little bit. I'm like, why didn't I really do, island expeditions at the beginning of the expansion? Why didn't I really get into Mythic Plus? Why didn't I do any of this stuff? And a lot of it was how either the content was geared towards, hey, 3 DPS work really well here, you're not really useful. Or as in Mythic Plus, it was, more of the idea of like, okay, it's more stress for content like that for a healer, and arguably for a tank. And I mean, yeah, DPS has a hard time of it sometimes as well. There's DPS checks and everything, but level of stress and everything like that, I honestly feel that healers are at the top, tanks, DPS underneath. And when I get home from work, or after a day of doing whatever or something like that, and I just want to kind of relax and everything like that, I don't want to just jump in and start healing 5-mans. It's not, it's something that I'm going to do to kind of battle stress and everything. So that's why I did a lot of stuff by myself. Either that or Nevermore and I would like run world quests together or something. Because at that point it's like, she's a tank. And we need to kill like 20 mobs. She pulls 18 of them in the first go. I just spin kick really quick and then heal her if she needs to, and then we're done. It was really efficient for both of us to do that stuff together. On top of that, my hey, I'm going through and healing everybody time was raid times. I wasn't really into doing a lot of stuff outside that, just because again that added level of stress and stuff. Even though I still enjoy healing, but it's just not for me right now. So again, I don't know if it's the whole expansion or not. But then moving over to, as I've been leveling up and gearing up my mage, one, I don't want to put the burden on anybody else of having to carry me. So I did a lot of that on my own, of, running world quests. Like anytime there was a gear upgrade, like even if it was like 1 point higher, obviously it's 5 points or more because that's how it's set up. But I would go for that. I would do every single thing I could to try to get gear. I ran like an LFR or two, and did what I could, till finally got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm getting decent rewards and emissary quests and stuff. I've bought stuff off the auction house. I've done everything else. Then at that time, it's like, okay, now I need to make sure I'm playing catch up on my necklace and on my cloak. And it's just this entire world of playing catch up just to do the things that I want to do, which, John, you're totally right. Barrier of entry, even though I kind of blew it down because I had a boosted character, it was still kind of a rough challenge. I've been working on this mage since I unlocked Volpira, and now I'm finally getting to the point where I feel like I'm geared enough to, contribute as opposed to completely being carried. And at this point now it's like, okay, we're doing cloak runs together. It's like, I don't feel like as much of a burden because I can contribute a little bit, but guess what? I'm so far behind on my cloak that, I'm at level 9, that people who are up to date, like, they can solo an entire thing. Meanwhile, I've got to be the one who, they waste the orbs on because my sanity is going faster than everybody else's. And so then it's like, well, why don't I just solo those? Because then I won't be a burden to everybody else. And it's this constant thing of, playing, catch up and keep up and everything in order to, not feel like you're putting yourself in that position. And that being said, I do want to say that I have a big group of friends in game who don't feel that way about me. I completely understand that, but it's how I feel regardless.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I feel like one of the issues, and by no means is this the only problem kind of surrounding this, is that there are some systems in place right now that allow higher level characters to do stuff with lower level characters, where the level ends up being matched and standardized and stuff like that. And I guess we're going to see a little bit more of that iterated on in Shadowlands and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to see more of that in WoW, but that's not the whole solution there. I think on top of that, we need that kind of accessibility, but then comes the issue of also the carrot. Why would higher level players want to do lower level content or help out people that aren't as progressed on the end game and stuff like that? I've not played Final Fantasy XIV in ages. There are a number of people in our raid team that are currently doing so. But one thing I do recall about Final Fantasy XIV, at least in more recent months and years, is a system called Duty Roulette, where you queue up for basically random content that people, much stuff that you've already done, but earlier people are maybe doing it for the first time. But one of the points about doing that content is the rewards that you get for doing it are still supposedly relevant for you. I think we're missing a reward system for doing this kind of content, for helping people that aren't as progressed, so that things are more accessible to them because they have more access to people who have already done it, and those people that have already done it are willing to do it again because the rewards that are there for doing it again are worth doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the major problems that WoW has is it's a game about collecting stuff and earning stuff and having stuff, and it doesn't have that interesting of stuff in it. It seems to be their power play is, well, we'll give you gear, or we'll give you the MacGuffin resource that we're using this expansion, and you'll get that. Or maybe we'll give you some rep. Like, and I can't figure out why they are so incredibly uncreative when it comes to loot. Why we are this many expansions in, and they're like, oh man, what if we had a really cool Hearthstone animation? You think?
Yeah.
Like, what if we did weapon enchants that coded the whole weapon and really just changed the model to make it look like something else? What if, man? Crazy how that might drive people to do something. Like, and part of my frustration with Blizzard's desire to have everything work as some big integrated system that's going to be expansion focused and all of that is you look at something like the not the order halls, garrisons, and you go back and they're like, this is our version of player housing. Well, back in the day, Ben and I talked about player housing, and it's going to sound like I'm saying that Ben and I's idea is better than what Blizzard came up with. And if if it sounds like that's what I'm saying, it's because that's exactly what I'm saying. Because instead of saying I want a feature for an expansion, Ben and I proposed a feature for the future of World of Warcraft. And the reason that is valuable is because if you give players a place to display knickknacks and have trophies and customize and do things with, and it's relevant beyond the expansion you're currently in, you have now added entire reward tiers that are way more valuable for the content that you're going to be asking people to run. That's not
why
just
transmog works.
Right, exactly. And it's not just gear. And I would love to be extremely controversial because I sure thought this, but I backed off on it, which is to say what I usually say. High-end rating is ruining World of Warcraft because the desire for our EPing to be great because we have to have such a high eye level on all that gear, and that's the only way you can get it because those raiders need to feel good and pat themselves on the back and feel real good about themselves, even though they're the vast minimal population of this game, sucks. But here's the thing. I don't know if I actually think that that's true. Because if you are going to say there is a progression of difficulty, then yes, the gear should get better along with that. And so while I'd love to say that, because it'll make all those high-level raiders mad at me.
Well, they don't listen to the show, so it's
They
fine.
don't. They're like, I got this. This show gives me nothing of value. It doesn't increase my eye level enough to go to better podcasts. So I would love to say that, but I do think you need that gear treadmill. You need people to feel like they're progressing and moving forward, and I think that's important. So even though it bugs me that it exists and that Blizzard feels the need to lock off certain pieces of gear and say, well, no, you can only get this by rating and you can only get this from the highest tier, I do think it's important. But that's why it's so much more important that they find other ways to make it rewarding. I complain about the toy box all the time as being the completely biggest worthless piece of junk that they've ever put in the game, that they continue to find stupid excuses and stupid items to put in this freaking thing, because everything has a ridiculous cooldown. Want to see a funny effect for 2 seconds and then have a 7-hour cooldown? It's in the toy box. Nobody is going to do content for a toy that you have 30 seconds of ooh before you have to wait a day before you can use it again. That's not a reward that anyone's going to feel good about. So
to bring that up though, I think the biggest argument against the whole cooldown issue on the toy box is that if you have everyone spamming the use of their toys and stuff like that, then the immersion's kind of broken in WoW. You have all this crazy stuff happening all the time,
man,
and
people
it just
can't
doesn't.
have fun.
Right. But I think there's a simple solution to that. I think you can. What if they just create something in options where you click the check mark, and if you click the check mark in options, you don't see toy effects go off.
Yeah,
Then
or
your
you can
immersion's
turn it off.
preserved.
Or here's a crazy idea: Blizzard, don't have put the shitty toys in the game. Like, you started with all these things that take up space and kill immersion, and like the chat room saying, that annoying ass train that
They made
people
a
were
toy
like,
to counter the toy.
yes, like, maybe think about it. But you have some things that would be really cool for people that like transmog, that like RP, that like whatever they might be into in the game, like the Fire Wings, and that drove people like crazy to go and try that. I remember that. First of all, it got me to go to the Dark Moon Fair, which is a freaking achievement because I will never go there. I went there, I struggled through because so many people there were doing their fly through fire hoops thing. That it wasn't working properly because there were so many people there doing it. And a ton of people did it. And why did they do it? Because it had a 30-minute cooldown and it lasted for 30 minutes at the time that it came out, which meant you could, unless you were getting into combat, perpetually have cool wings on your character. And not only did they roll that back now, so that's not how it works, unless they've redone it, but it wasn't how it worked last time I checked it.
Nope,
not only
still not.
did they then F it up by saying, oh no, oops, we made something too fun, better nerf it. But then they've continued to not put more stuff like that in the game. That's the kind of stuff that drives people to your content, where you don't have to give them a power increase, and you don't have to upset the PvPers, and you don't have to upset the Mythic Raiders, and you can put something in the game that people will get excited about and try for. Same thing with titles. Same thing if you had done player housing correctly, and you could have put cool things in the player housing. And I see them every now and then brush up against these great ideas and these cool ideas. There was the whole minifigure collection in Mechagon, and I was like, oh, that's neat. Am I gonna have like a cool table where I can display all of these and have this? No, I can drop one little pedestal and put a figure of my minifigures on it in the middle of the ground, in the middle of who knows where. What the hell use is that? It was a cool idea that was executed so poorly that I immediately didn't give two shits about it. So,
John, I'm going to take a page from your book, though, on one more thing with this. And I can't believe I'm about to hear myself say this.
Oh?
It's time for the Dark Moon Fair to just be there 24/7.
yes!
It really is. There's no... I understand why they did it in the first place, but there is no extra value gained from having it be 1 week a month anymore. There really isn't.
Yeah, no, there isn't. And maybe in a world where there's also something really cool and really interesting, which I'm sure Blizzard would argue there is, but I've looked at your calendar and I disagree. On the other weeks and weekends.
John, the trial of style.
The trial of style is the best thing in the game. We all know it. My point is, and I'm getting extremely intense about this, I'm yelling about it because I'm on a podcast. I'm trying to bring my energy up from the beginning of the show, and I've successfully done it.
It's all on you.
But my point is that Blizzard just needs to look at the things their players get excited about. Remember when we all found Turkey, the stupid Murloc that nobody had found that was just hanging out in a cave in Northrend? And everybody lost their freaking mind, and everybody went there. Sure, part of it was we were at near the end of an expansion, and nobody was really into anything, and it was just like, oh god, something new, I'm so excited. But these are the things that your players get passionate about. These are the things that you have that are alternatives to gear, which I understand why Blizzard doesn't want to just throw out like candy, and there would probably be some people that argue that they do. A very good friend of mine, Kyle Ferguson. I played a ton of this expansion with him in the early days. The thing that drove him away was how quickly and easily you could play catch up as soon as the next raid came out. He was like, what's the point of that? There should be a progression. I should do A, then B, then C, then D. And there shouldn't be a way to skip A and B just because I didn't play until C came out. And I don't agree with him, but I respect that opinion and where it comes from. And so he would probably say that, they're a little too liberal with the ease at which you collect gear and the method by which you do it.
It's part of the problem to appealing to a diverse player base, though. There are players that like it one way and players that like it another, and they tend to go for the least common denominators in terms of accessibility.
Right, and that's why gear is a tricky thing to have be your only reward. And Azerite is a boring reward. I don't know if anybody here is going to be like, guys, man, I just freaking love when I get
funny
Azerite.
Too, because like the very beginning of the expansion, we're like, oh man, it doesn't show up in our bags. We don't have to click it and hear that sound, and it's awesome. Now we're just like, God, it's so friggin' boring. Like, I don't know if it's just the simple thing of it's not in our bag, so I don't feel like I got anything, or like, is it just my mind being all like, you get nothing? Like, Willy Wonka's staring at me, just screaming it in my face of, oh yeah, you did a world quest, you get nothing.
I think
it's just another experience bar.
Yeah,
it's another experience bar that doesn't have anywhere near the kind of impact that the actual experience bars have when you're leveling.
And way too big a gaps before anything meaningful happens. You either get something genuinely meaningful, or you level it and nothing, level it and nothing, level it and nothing, level it. Oh, here's a little extra health. Thanks, Dad.
It's almost like leveling from 110 to 120. We got nothing. Except for 10 bars filled up.
Yeah.
Nothing important about that. Who cares?
So go ahead, Rob.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, with that in mind, I mean, we should say that, like, for all of the frustration that we might have about the Azerite system, it sounds like Shadowlands is dealing away with that kind of progression with what they're doing with the Covenants and stuff.
Yeah. It is, and that's cool. But again, the other downside to things like this, and not that I'm saying I want Azerite to stick around. Please do not make that mistake. I hated it from the beginning. But the problem with abandoning all your children at the end of the expansion and then going, we're going to have new children! We can make as many as we want! As you move into the next one, is that there is no carryover. There is no constant, well, I'll keep working towards that, or I'll have this goal that I can work towards. And this kind of goes back to what I said about the player housing. If you have player housing for one expansion, then it's only rewarding for that one expansion. If you add a new element to the game that's continually intriguing and continually something that you can do, it's something that you can keep adding incentives behind it and keep getting people excited about it.
Yeah, I was going to mention Blizzard's only one child that they've allowed to survive. It said somebody mentioned it too. That's the mission table.
Yeah, except it's become a lamer child expansion after expansion.
Not true. That is not true. There is another child that they've allowed to carry over too, since Mists of Pandaria.
The talent tree?
Azeroth Roundtable, the podcast.
No, pet battles. They make pet battle dungeons. The pet battle system, I mean, John, to go to your point, I know it's pet battles, but the pet battle system is a system that, it doesn't appeal to every player. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying that this is a big, huge success for them, because pet battles are only for like a specific portion of the player base. But that said, that is a system that they have continued to support, even at some minor level throughout the history of the game since the Mists of Pandaria. And I agree with you, John. What World of Warcraft needs is not expansion-specific systems, but systems that are going to stick with the game for more than one expansion, hopefully for like the continued life of the game.
Look, I will say this, as someone who did a Pet Battle podcast for multiple years, Pet Battles has stuck with World of Warcraft just like the talent tree has stuck with World of Warcraft. Have there been changes? Maybe. Can you tell what they are? No.
Well, there's new pets. If you like getting new pets, or when you go to a new continent and you go, that's cool, I'd love to have that as a pet.
Hey, look, it's a different named squirrel that looks the same as all the other ones.
I can't believe this is the argument we're getting from Ben. This is the pushback. Because I don't think I can count on probably two hands the amount of times I've had a stupid pet following me. I think they're dumb and lame. But every now and then I get to a place and I'm like, oh man, that's a cool looking creature. And then there's a tiny version of that creature walking around with a little pet battle icon. And I was like, man, if I participated in this system and I cared about what followed me around, I could make that happen. So I see both your points. It is kind of a thing that has existed that they have put kind of minimal effort into, but it's still there. It's not like you get out of Mists of Pandaria and now no more pets can be tamed.
Yeah, and that's the biggest difference here, is that we're talking about the key thing for the expansion. Pet battles was an added thing that never really came to be the main focus, you know?
True.
How amazing would it be if we still had artifact weapons that did something? How amazing would it be if, as the chat room pointed out, it's like, yeah, you can still make hexweave bags and goblin gliders, and, you know, RJ, you're right, you can. But what is there currently with this expansion that you're doing in the garrison? Nothing.
Well, and I think
nothing. And that's the point.
The point too to what we're saying isn't that these things had no use or no place. It's that nobody is going to be incentivized if they put in a new method to get hexweave into the game. People aren't going to go, wait a minute, I don't have to go to the garrison anymore? I got another way to do hexweave? The emissary reward is a goblin glider? Hot damn, I'm going to get back in and do it. Like, whereas if they had done garrisons maybe better, and there was a way to now have complete retooling of how your garrison looked, a different place you could keep your garrison, more options within that, that might be something that gets people to use it. I'm not making the argument that you can't use a garrison for anything anymore, because it's not 100% true. You're right. There are things you can do there.
Yeah, it's the only way that I go to Warlords of Draenor zones. I just use that hearth and boom.
That's true.
Now I have access.
But they can't really put anything in the game right now that's going to incentivize you to go, yeah, I need to really continue to participate in garrisons.
Yeah, like remember when they added all those musical scrolls to all these end bosses for all the end raids for all the expansions? That's something right there. It's like, oh, you can have different music playing in your garrison. It's like, that's really cool. It incentivized people to go out into the world to do something. Now it doesn't matter because, I mean, I'm sure there's a couple people who spend all their time in the garrison. They're having fun, and that's where they hang out. That's their one place.
Isn't there a toy that duplicates that garrison jukebox?
Yes, it's like a portable jukebox.
Okay.
Of some sort. I don't know. Which, by the way, I don't know if I ever said it on the show, but I do want to make sure it is said because it's one of my favorite toys in the world that is in World of Warcraft. And Mira's broken jukebox is now fixed, and it's just Mira's jukebox, and you hear the whole verse of the song. So work on getting that because it's awesome. And John, I know you don't care because it's a toy.
Well, no, I mean, careful, Ben, because if they find out that it works and it works a way that people enjoy, they'll put a 24-hour cooldown on it.
Right now, it's a 10-minute cooldown.
Do you want to hear a couple strums of a guitar from Diablo? Well, you can once every 12 hours.
No, that's not even a joke, and that's just sad.
It's not a joke. It's literally in the game.
I know. You're right. It's funny and sad.
Going back to it, though, I think the biggest thing is the fact that, like, I don't know if it's just World of Warcraft is the different MMO, which it's the kind of one of the only MMOs now. So they can actually, you know, take some of these ideas and be forward thinking with them. They don't have to constantly drop everything and make a new expansion. I know that we've talked before about how, you know, is it really broken into two teams where, you know, half the team's working on one and then the next, and that's why we get so many inconsistent things with the expansions or not. But the thing that matters most to us is some sort of consistency and like things moving forward. I mean, I would love to have player housing, which is something I never cared about before because I like the idea that John and I talked about of how you can constantly change it. It's something that you can do. There's a place for it in the world. Who the frack cares if it's instanced? I don't need to have a neighborhood where I walk down the street and then, you know, it's the third left on the right, and that's my house. No, I don't care. Scroll into a place, let me work with it, or let me have like an area where I could choose the style of building. Maybe I like Pandaren buildings versus undead buildings or something. You know, give us just so much more to play with. And then, like John said, and bro, I'm pretty sure you're agreeing with, give us reasons to go out. You know how you get a Nixia's head from killing a Nixia? Guess what? What if I want a big Nixia head just sitting right on my front porch? I should be able to do that.
No, trust me.
Yeah.
If player housing was ever introduced into WoW, it would be one of the biggest ways to get people to go to old zones to collect unique things, decorations, and stuff like that. I mean, there are tons of reasons why player housing would be huge for World of Warcraft, and I don't know the actual reasons, the philosophy behind why they don't do it. I don't know if it's technical limitations. I don't know if it's because they feel shell-shocked from the Garrison experiment. I've seen it succeed in other MMOs. It just baffles me why they don't want to mimic that success here.
Is it only because they initially came out with the whole, this is the Blizzard way of doing it, so they're not going to go back on it?
Blizzard has a bad tendency to overreact to things, which I know is weird for a podcast that overreacts to things. But they have a tendency, we talk about the pendulum, and Blizzard is very much about pushing that pendulum to the other side. Oh, they didn't like what we did for player housing? That doesn't mean tweak it and find the thing that people will enjoy. That means, boom, push it. No more player housing ever again. We're never going to do it. People don't like it. And that's not a good system, because the real issue is that garrisons were not what people wanted, and they weren't great. It wasn't that people didn't want player housing. So sometimes the wrong lessons get learned from these things.
I have actually a thought about the whole pendulum swing thing, though. And just trying to approach it from the perspective of trying to be like, if I was Blizzard, considering you have as wide a player base as you have, and that many people play the game in different ways, is the pendulum swinging because people don't like it one way, so then they push it the other? Or is the pendulum swinging because they realize that on any given expansion, they can't do everything to appeal everybody in the player base equally, so one expansion they tend to cater to people with this kind of play style. Another expansion or two, they cater to a different play style. Case in point, alts. Legion and BFA have been freaking terrible for alts, but if you've been a solo player, I mean, it's been fine. Whereas there have been expansions where it feels like if you played solo, you ran out of content to do, but if you didn't want to play alts because alts weren't your thing, you ran out of stuff to do on your solo character in other expansions. Now we're going to see in Shadowlands that they're doing things there to make things way more alt friendly. Is it because all the people from Legion and BFA are like, oh my gosh, I can't play my alts anymore? Or is it just because it's a conscious decision by the dev team to say, okay, we've given the solo players what they want to do, now let's give the alt players what they want?
I mean, I think it's a little, I think there's some logic behind it, but I think it's a little tinfoil hat, and the only reason I think it's a little tinfoil hat is because, I'm not going to speak for everybody, because anytime I badmouth Cataclysm, I get, that was my favorite expansion. I know there are people out there who like them. But
we know it was because it was your first expansion.
The general overall consensus is that it goes good expansion, bad expansion, good expansion, bad expansion. And it's not a case of there's a 50-50 split on the player base, and one time they're getting catered to, and one time a different group is getting catered to. It really does seem to be that players are pretty happy to very happy, and then pretty upset, and then pretty happy to very happy, and then pretty upset. And you're going to have your outliers, and I have occasionally heard people go, I thought Lich King sucked. And it's like, okay, you're going to have your outliers. I'm probably fairly certain that the Lich King sucked people are just saying it to be contrarian, but that's just because I can't imagine feeling that way.
I'm an outlier with Island Expeditions. I love it. Most people are like, eh.
We've already got it. It's already in the chat. Congratulations, Baton216.
Yep.
Cataclysm was the best expansion, period.
And RJ,
Nope.
you're right.
But there you go.
It is the same as the old Star Trek movie curse. The even ones were the good ones.
So they're gonna have your outliers. They already exist in our chat room, so I'm sure they exist when they hear this.
Just really quick, Bethon 218.
That's
or
not
is that
an
a
8.
16?
That's a 6.
That's a 6. Well,
But
it's far
I
away, and I've got
appreciate the
anyways.
accent that you put on
We're
the
going
name.
Bethon 216. Was Cataclysm your first time you played World of Warcraft? I'm just curious. And we'll see.
I'm
that
curious
answer
if
in
it's your
a moment.
first expansion, and the other thing I'd be curious is, okay, well, which one's your least favorite?
Yeah.
So get back to us in the chat. We need to know.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I mean, I'm not trying to, but I guess I did, and I guess I did mean to, just turn this into slamming Blizzard. But the thing of it is to tie it back to a positive thing. Ro is 100% correct. This game is so much better when played with friends and when played with others. That doesn't mean that all the content in the game needs to be group based, but it's easier to find a group of your friends to play if all your friends are playing. And one of the ways you do that is keeping people in the game, giving them things to do, and giving them things to enjoy. And you can't always just say, here's gear, because eventually you top out on that. Sure, sometimes I get lucky and something rolls higher, but generally speaking, I've now hit a point with the kind of content that I experience, I'm not going to get better gear. So unless they do the weapon for the first time in freaking ever, the emissary quests have stopped being interesting to me because they've stopped providing upgrades. So I went from playing a lot and doing those emissary quests because it was gear upgrades to, you know what, I don't really need to do them. And the daily quests I've done so many times I don't need to keep doing it. And the result is I haven't really played WoW, and I haven't felt the need to upgrade my cloak, because why do I need to upgrade my cloak? This problem goes away if you put other types of rewards in the game. This problem exists because the only carrot on the stick you've given me is gear, and I've now hit my limit with that, which means I have a choice. Do I bump up to mythic dungeon rating or rating? Maybe, but no, because I'm not going to do that, and I have no interest in it. So the result is I go and I play something else.
Well, look, if you join us on a Wednesday, Manny will be there and he'll power us through.
I record a podcast on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I can get sick one day. And by the way, those who are wondering and following along with Baton, no, Cataclysm was not the first expansion. It was actually the second expansion. They hated Burning Crusade, and that's when they started.
So one question I have for you, John, is as far as like having a wider variety of rewards and more carrots and a variety of carrots to appeal to different players and stuff like that. One way that I feel you get that set up is if you establish, and this may be a bad word to say, but if you establish a uniform currency that can be used to purchase varying different rewards, whether it's transmog, whether it's gear and stuff like that. And then that makes me wonder, are we at a point in World of Warcraft where maybe having justice points or valor points isn't that bad an idea again?
So you're talking about cartel coins?
Here's the funny thing. Here's something I enjoy the hell out of, because there's so, I used to do a show about a little game, Heroes of the Storm.
Wait, what?
Now it's a show about video games in general. It's called Core.
Core.
It's quite good if you want to learn about Bukkake. We talked about it last week. Now Ben has to bleep it out again.
No, I'm not.
I'm not kidding though. We did
Why is
talk
it that
about
every
it.
show you're on starts talking about that?
I
Is there
didn't
something
bring
you
it
haven't
up.
told us?
Bo brought it
not
up.
that I'm
Actually,
shaming.
Scott
Not that I'm
brought
shaming.
it up. Scott brought it up.
Yeah,
not
I can
me.
see that.
Anyway,
I can see that.
Let's roll it back. Here's what I enjoy. So when I did a Heroes of the Storm show called Core, one of the things that we always talked about was how to monetize your game, right? like, and how to keep interest in playing match after match. In the beginning, oh no, in the beginning, sorry, Sack Maniac, he's the, oh, okay, he's kidding. Okay, anyway, sorry, got distracted by the chat room. In the beginning, everything in that game was purchasable, which, when you think about it, is kind of the justice, valor point kind of system. Hey, everything's for sale. We can buy it. We've kind of gotten to the loot box system now, where it's like we've got caches and we've got random drops, and you do a thing and then you might get something out of it. You might not. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Hopefully it works out in your favor. And we're currently in the era of loot boxes. So here's my question. Now that everybody has adopted the battle pass method, and that's where we currently live, how long before WoW seasons come out where it's like, okay, guys, you buy this expansion, here's the big things you're going to unlock over the course of the expansion, and by playing, all your activities will lead towards unlocking these great goals throughout the expansion, whether you're doing dungeons, whether you're doing raids, whether you're doing solo content or daily quests, whatever, it's all going to go towards this bar. The quicker you fill up the bar, the quicker you unlock these rewards, or you'll be ready to have this reward the day it comes out. You know what? You grinded like crazy. You're going to have flying the day we add it to the expansion because you participated and you were an active participant in the World of Warcraft. So
sign me up.
When we put Pathfinder in the game, you've already got it because you've been playing and you filled this experience bar all the way up.
Hey, John, they already did this. It was called Honor in the last expansion. Except it was only with Honor. Yeah, and they also have loot boxes with every emissary quest every day too. So it's in the game.
No, emissary quest boxes is a loot box. These aren't loot boxes.
That's what I said.
Yes, we're not talking about loot boxes anymore.
Yeah, but
we're talking about battle pass. We're already past it.
Yeah,
we're into battle pass territory, Ben.
And it's already in the game.
No, it isn't.
That's what Honor is.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, it kind of is.
You get rewards.
But I'm talking about for the whole game, Ben, not for Honor.
Oh, okay.
So cut it out. I'm not. First of all,
no. Hold on. So you're saying, what if they stepped up the model that they use for Honor?
Yeah.
And apply it to the whole game?
Sure. Now, let me be clear what I am saying and what I'm not saying. I'm not necessarily endorsing this. I'm just saying.
That sounds horrible.
No, it sounds kind of cool.
No.
So, you know what? I think it is. I think I've discovered the future World of Warcraft. It might be.
You probably have.
It might be that Ben is opposed to it, so I'm becoming more excited about it. I'm like,
a very, very good.
I'm like, if Ben hates this. This must be the right idea. Because when I proposed this, I was like, this is dumb. I'm making a connection that makes sense because we have done all these things before, and that is what the future of gaming is doing, so it could be what WoW goes to. And I was like, it's probably a bad idea. Now Ben's like, I hate it. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, John, it's every invasion in every zone right now. Fill up this bar, and then you get a reward. It's in the game.
Yeah, but not shitty rewards, Ben. And it would be one bar, not a little bar every day.
Yeah, but you're filling up that bar every day that you're playing. And all it is, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to be the dude. I'm going to go and I'm just going to kill everything I see to fill up this bar.
Diablo kind of does it on a larger scale with their whole season conquest system, although that requires completing a whole bunch of different achievements. But that's kind of a more, like long-term overarching scale as opposed to the day-to-day bar filling of an assault.
Like flying in World of Warcraft.
So I know I was really worried that I was going to make Heroic Raiders mad, and then I kind of backtracked on it, and also we established that they don't listen. So I have found a way to make everybody mad, and here's what I'm going to go with. Diablo does everything better than WoW.
Yeah, we've talked about this before on the show, and you've turned me around on that. I kind of agree with all of that.
So there's your model, Blizzard. Copy off yourselves. You did the homework. Grab that paper and start writing. I mean, honestly, Ro's example of the keys earlier would immediately be a better system if it was a thing that you unlocked. Oh, you've done this level of difficulty, you can run... No more of this leveling up your key, you know, I gotta get this key, I gotta hope this key drops. Just let people run it. Just let them go. Let them pick it from a list. They don't have to pick up a stupid item. Why'd you make it more complicated? Cut it out.
And if they don't have the gear and the ability to do it at a high level, then they won't do it at a high level.
Right. They run it at the lower level. Diablo does it better. They already do it better. Copy what they did. Anytime...
Now, what if they had like arena seasons, and then depending on where you rank in that arena season, you get a reward?
I don't acknowledge that arena exists in World of Warcraft.
Like
man.
everything you're saying exists in the game in some way already.
So why? So that's an interesting question, though. Why doesn't PvE content model PvP reward system?
Because again, the Mythic Raiders are going to get those better rewards, but they get that already in loot because it's a higher item level loot. They're not going for rankings or anything.
But rewards don't have to be all about gear. I mean, when John's talking rewards and a battle pass and stuff like that, I don't think he's necessarily saying that some of those battle pass like rewards would be including gear.
Right. I said flying.
No,
I said Pathfinder. I said rather than giving you an achievement with which to do, the game says, are you playing the game? Are you participating in World of Warcraft? Rather than telling you need to max out this rep and you need to do this, you need to have shown that you've played the game and had a fun time playing the game. And here you go.
There's no indicator that you've had a fun time playing the game. Because again, what you're talking about is the Pathfinder achievements. You do these things and you get the Pathfinder achievement.
Here's the thing. Pathfinder, the key difference between the Battle Pass system and the Pathfinder system. Mm-hmm. Pathfinder is a system design where it requires you to do a great majority, if not all of the content that they have spent time designing so that you participate in pretty much all aspects of gameplay of that content patch. The Battle Pass system rewards you as long as you're doing whatever you enjoy the most out of what stuff they offer to you enough.
Yeah.
So, I'm with John here.
Well, no, but here's the thing. Depending on the reward, are you going to do the thing that gets it to you the fastest?
Yes.
That you might not enjoy? Or are you going to do what you want to enjoy and just eventually get there? What if there's a time limit on it?
That applies to both things. Both of those things are true in the example I gave. If you're the kind of person that likes running old content and getting transmog, it could theoretically, not saying this is how they would build it, but it could theoretically go, they are engaging in our content, they are playing our game, this is counting towards it.
So then why don't they just have it for, just log in this amount of time. All you need to do is be logged in for a certain amount of time and then you get it.
I think there's ways to abuse that.
Too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. There's always ways to abuse it. You know what? I could be the person who wants to fish, and all I want to do is fish, and then I create a bot, and then it fishes for me, and then it's the same exact as just being logged in. It's
and so why should that person not get flying then? That seems like a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of idle time, and paying Blizzard $15 a month. I feel like they should get flying.
Yeah. Personally, I think they should get flying regardless. Like
now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting somewhere.
Hey, guess what? The 0.2 patch, everybody gets flying.
Yes. You have to be max level. You get it.
Yeah.
Done.
And even more so.
Can you imagine
hold on.
Shadowlands, if in 9.2, if they just said, you know that whole Pathfinder thing? We're just giving you flying in 9.2. Can you imagine how much positive press WoW would get from that?
Well, we can't have that. That's not the way.
Except for the people who hate flying so much, and they're going to be like, it ruined the game, and all that stuff. You can't make anybody happy.
You know what? One small thing they could do to make Pathfinder infinitely better?
0.0 patches, the previous expansion, everybody gets flying.
Here's my YouTube video. Yellow text. One tiny thing. That would be a big thing. One tiny thing they could do to make it infinitely better for Pathfinder. Let's say Blizzard refuses to budge. They're like, we're not going to give you just get it on the day. but you can change one thing. Remove the rep requirement from whatever the patch is that unlocks it. Because that's the part that is always the worst. I don't mind being exalted with the one that I've been doing for 6 months or however long it took me to get to the Pathfinder patch. But it's that they put out the Pathfinder patch and go, oh, we put a new rep in the thing and you got to get exalted with them. Get rid of that requirement. It's 90% better. It'd be 100% better if they just gave it to you. But it's
Sir,
90% better.
That answers your question of not understanding what the problem is with Pathfinder. It's the rep.
It's the rep.
That's a big part of it.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it's especially the day of Pathfinder patch rep. Because again, I don't think there's a huge issue with the 4 or however many reps they want to make it that are there from the beginning of the expansion that we're all going to get while we're doing our leveling up, and it's probably going to be pretty easily exalted anyway. I think those are actually kind of okay. Because probably for even fairly casual players that go, oh, the Pathfinder patch is tomorrow? Oh, geez. They're probably already revered, and they're probably already almost all the way to exalted, and it's going to require minimal effort to get there. It's when they go, surprise, it's here. Now you just have to get exalted with Mechagon and Najatar. Go for it. Get rid of that, and you got a thing, and it works.
Oh, and by the way, when you go back to Warlords of Draenor to farm some of that transmog, you can't fly.
I do have to say though, like it to counter as a counter to this, the only reason why I participated as much as I did in Nazjatar content is because you needed the rep to get Pathfinder.
Well, wouldn't it have been great if Najatar had a lot of fun content that made you want to play it?
I didn't even say it. Ben said it for me. Oh my gosh.
But you know what? I believe it.
Yeah. I think
you know what I had to do? I have a Heart of Azeroth on a new character that I was working on that had 0 freaking essences. Guess what? I got 3. There's 4 slots. There's no easy freaking way to get a 4th essence unless you go through and unlock Najatar. Then I had to go in there and unlock Najatar, and it freaking sucked. That place is the worst.
Here's what I love.
Mechagon.
Here's what I love.
Them all. John confirmed.
Here's what I love about this episode. This is why this is going to be my personal favorite episode. Because for Ben, me, and I'm going to speak for you, Ro, clearly this has been a cathartic episode of just like, we're going to air all the grievances tonight. We've had a hard week. We're in a bad mood. We're just going to air our grievances, and we're going to get very passionate about the things that we care about, and we're just going to throw it all out there. It will be our most hated episode.
Fun.
We are going to get so many angry emails and tweets about
this game,
episode.
which they're not going to understand.
Yeah.
We're talking about things that could be so much better with just small quality of life upgrades and player housing. And with that, Ro, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Azeroth Roundtable. It has been an absolute pleasure. And you know what? Before we even say anything else, if you are pissed off about anything we said, send us an email. Let us hear about it. AzerothRoundtable@gmail.com.
Ben will read it.
Yeah, I know. You totally won't.
I don't follow any feedback. Just a heads up. Let me be honest with all you out there. I don't read reviews. I don't read the emails, and I will maybe see the tweets. But
Yeah,
I probably will also mute you, and I won't see them ever again after the first time.
What I do with the emails, if it's specific to John and I think it's something that he actually should look at, I do let him know.
Yeah, that's true. I do see nice emails.
Yeah, I know better than to send you the other ones.
No, because here's the thing. No, before we go, I want to explain why I'm not reading your bullshit emails and I don't care about them anymore.
Oh my god.
There was a time where I was way more into reading reviews and being like, oh, I hope people like the show. And I would read it, and here's what happened. I started feeling the need to clarify everything I said on this damn show because somebody would say, John clearly doesn't play the game. And then all of a sudden I'd be talking on the show and I'd go, well, now here's the thing. Let me be clear. I played 3 times this week. Now let me give you my opinion. And that's horseshit. And I'm sick of doing it. And I got sick of doing it. And it changed the way I did shows. And so while I respect that you don't like me, and I respect that you don't like the way I do the show, I'm the one here doing it. Do your own fucking show if you have an opinion on how it should be done. I'm not reading it. I don't give a shit.
Wow.
So, Ro, until next time, where can people find you?
Well, they can follow me on Twitter at Brian Podcaster, and I'm involved in a number of different podcasts and projects. If you go to warcraftradio.com, you can see pages for Realm Maintenance, Hearth Casual, which is a Hearthstone podcast, Rolling Restart, which is a WoW podcast, very, very similarly modeled after this one. Ben and John are on it fairly often. And outside of that, you can find me on a couple of D&D shows, +5 to Hit, and on twitch.tv/Spazbot Studios. Every other Tuesday, I play a D&D game called Feats of Fellowship.
All right. Hey, John.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask where people can contact you because that's just never going to happen again. But if for some reason they want to follow you without any sort of reciprocation at all, where would that be?
Oh, believe me, Ben, I'm sure I'm going to get some feedback about this episode. So if you want to find a way to reach out to me, you can follow me on Twitter at John_Jagger. If it's civil, if it's nice, I will read it and I will respond. And I appreciate any thoughtful discussion, even if you disagree with me. That's at John_Jagger. Don't do at John Jagger. That's not me. And we shouldn't be mean to that guy. He's just got a name. He did pick it, but he didn't. I'm on other shows.
Maybe his parents picked it.
His parents probably picked it. I'm on other shows. You can catch me talking about video games on Core. It's a video game show, which I also don't read reviews for. And you can also catch me playing Dungeons and Dragons on There Will Be Dungeons, which is a Dungeons and Dragons show I don't read reviews for.
Well, that's because you have the best review, and that's a live one every Friday night when I tell you about it, if I'm caught up.
Yeah, that's great.
Which
Look,
I'm totally not. I'm so far behind right now.
I value anybody that I think comes to me. And Ben, for the record, because I did see someone say this in chat, sometimes we just want to talk with you because we're excited about your ideas. I am being far more active in our Discord. You can check that out. I do check that frequently. You can reach out to me on Twitter. You can send emails, and typically if it's a question, if it's a friendly email, if it's not just, why do you guys hate WoW so much? Or why do you guys think you can develop WoW better than everybody? Ben will usually share it with me, and I will read it, and I will frequently respond.
Yeah. If it's something I can't answer or think actually needs an answer.
I encourage all creative discussion, civil discussion. What I avoid is that I am prone, and I'm going to invite a whole bunch of stuff with this, I am prone to people being angry and upset. And so if people start saying, John, you do this and I hate this, and this is why I hate you, and this is why I think you're the worst, it changes how I do things. And I don't want this show to be a reaction to 2 or 3 people that don't like me. I want you to listen to this show, any show that I'm on, and know that that's me. Except for There Will Be Dungeons, that's Stanley Billings. What he does is his business, and
that's true.
It should not reflect me. I never pulled somebody off a mountain and murdered them. Stanley did. I didn't. And I draw the line there. So I just want to clarify before we go, for anybody that feels extremely heated about what I said, that I do value feedback and opinions. This is literally a show about offering our opinions.
John,
so
why are you taking all this time to explain yourself?
See, I'm doing it. This is what I tried to avoid. Because I'm seeing the 1-star reviews in my head, but I'm not going to actually see them, so I shouldn't worry.
I'm going to actually tell you the most recent 1-star review we have.
Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
You're going to like this. Okay, it's on iTunes. More WoW, less Star Wars. This was on January 10th.
Clearly, they don't know you guys.
How about you guys start a side podcast if you want to talk about Star Wars and The Mandalorian? Literally entire episodes of a WoW podcast dedicated to things that aren't WoW?
Well, I mean, I guess the good news is we are technically going to listen to that review because I don't think there's a new Star Wars thing in December. So I don't think we're going to be bringing Grand Moff Talkin' back this December.
Yeah, unfortunately. Oh, well. Gosh.
That was a good review, though.
I
like the idea that they search. Here's what I want to believe, though. I want to believe that they typed WoW podcast, Azeroth Roundtable popped up. They were like, well, let me go 2 episodes back. That's not too far back. And they heard us talking about Rise of Skywalker, and they were like, okay, that's weird.
Oh my God, John, there's one that calls me a whiner. They love you, but think I'm a whiner. Whoa.
Okay, we need to stop reading the review.
I've made it. Wow.
How's it feel, Ben?
No, it's not about crafting. Actually, it's I love John, but Ben is the perpetual victim of Blizzard's game design and a professional whiner.
Oh, you're professional. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't need a whole new set of gear to do world quests, man. That's ridiculous. Well, yeah, it is, but guess what? They were rough at the beginning.
All right. Oh, right. Mandalorian is back in October.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. We are going to do Grand Moff Talking again in December. So look forward to that.
I am, actually.
It's going to be a whole WoW podcast dedicated to Star Wars.
Yeah. But anyways, John, thank you very much. If you're looking for me, you can always tweet me. I am at Ben Bumhofer. I do a show with Ro called +5 to Hit, where we play Dungeons and Dragons. And believe it or not, we actually still do the show. It'll be updated at some point.
Soon.
There's a missing episode out there. It's hiding. We're working on it. Other than that, I do a show with Ryan Reeder. It's called D&D Discussions, where we talk about, DMing, actually playing, all about Dungeons and Dragons. And last but not least, I do a show with Eludra called Box Fort, where guess what? We geek out about whatever the heck we feel like. So check that out. This show, though, Azeroth Roundtable, as I said, you can leave reviews on iTunes, probably Google Play, probably Spotify. I don't know. We really don't check them most of the time. But if you do want to send us some email, you can always send us to, like I said, AzerothRoundtable@gmail.com. And, of course, you can check us out on the actual internet on AzerothRoundtable.com. That's where every single episode is, as well as on, like, iTunes and all those other places I said. Actually, not lastly, but we're also on Twitter. We are at AzerothRT, and it's a good idea to follow that if you want to watch us live, because guess what? We broadcast live on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/AzerothRT. And in fact, if you do catch us live, guess what? Next week, we are going to be an hour different because of daylight saving time. Because we're in Arizona, and you're not.
This is such a hostile episode.
Not really. Anyways, John, yeah, maybe we should plug this last thing. What do you think?
Hey, if you like how real this episode was, go to patreon.com/AzerothRT and show support. Or don't. Oh, we should thank the people who go, though.
Yeah, we definitely should. I'm waiting for that. You can blame them.
I didn't log in. Hold on. Let me get it.
Oh, man. What are you doing?
Hold on.
Well, while you're doing that, I would like to actually thank our newest patron, Annie A. Or actually, I think this might be an actual handle as opposed to a full name. Annie Atomic, thank you for your patronage. We really do appreciate it.
All right. And a special shout out to the Murloc Club, Aaron, Caleb M, Kilroy-tastic, Michael Van S, because you sent me what your last name was, and even though you said I could say it, I don't know if I could, so I'm going to at least take another week to think about it. Sarah M, Taryn, thank you so much for being part of the Murloc Club, and I hope you enjoyed this colorful episode.
That was Murloc for thank you very much for your support, and you know what you signed up for. You really
I
did.
don't know if they were ready for this.
That's true. But anyways, chat room, you guys have been great. Ro, thank you very much for joining us. And despite what everybody may believe after this episode, all three of us actually love this game. We just always want it to be better than what it is. And until next time, be good to each other.
Oh, I should stop the recording. Shit, I
Yeah.
forgot how podcast works.